can see the joy in your eyes, and I know it's real. Sometimes I wonder if I love you too much. Why feel the need to tell the world just how I feel, because things have all gone wrong. We need to understand, so we give our best and be the best that we can be, so that the world can see just how it ought to be. So just live a little life, a day at a time, do the little things that's right at your side. I know the way it's laid, and Jah is always there, and I'll try to do the good things that I can, show love to everyone. Life is only fair, 'cause love is always waiting there. Love is always waiting there, all for us to share. I feel a funny feeling coming over me, but Jah is my guiding light, and nothing will I fear. No vows, no vows, no barriers can hold me now, because my way is laid, and Jah is always there. So just live a little life, a day at a time, do the little things that's right at your side. I know the way is laid, and Jah is always there, and I'm trying to do the good things that I can, show love to everyone. Life is only fair, 'cause love is always waiting there.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another episode of the Junior Soul Show. And I have with me here Junior Soul. I'm Elizabeth Barrett, co-host.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Great. It's so nice to be back.
It is. It is.
Yes. So what's been happening outside?
Well, a lot of things, the impeachment and everything, we're going to talk about that. But I must say one thing. I have to correct this. Last week when we did this show, remember when we were talking about Christmas?
Yes.
And I said that Elizabeth, for all you Bible readers out there, was Jesus' mother. Well, I know I made an error, and I realized after the show that I made an error. Elizabeth.
No, I realized.
No, I did.
Okay.
Elizabeth was John's mother, not Jesus. Mary is the mother of Jesus, okay? So I just want you to know that I do know who Elizabeth and Mary is, okay?
So, impeachment.
Yeah. What do you think about it?
I think it's terrible.
I know.
It's one of the greatest presidents we have for a long time, and to see what's happening to him, we really don't appreciate that. I'm going to get some buses, and I'm going to go to Washington.
You're going to Washington.
I'm going to Washington.
You haven't done that trip yet.
Yeah, I'm going to get some buses, and I'm going to carry some people to Washington. Next week, Thursday. Yes.
Okay.
Candlelight Vision. Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't think that he's going to be impeached. What do you think?
No, I don't think so.
Not.
I hope not.
Yeah.
He's too much of a nice person.
Yeah, and a good president.
A good president.
A very good president.
Yes. So, how you been doing?
I'm doing good, but we have a great guest lined up for you today.
Yes.
You're going to enjoy this show. Spectacular person.
Yes. And as we said before, the holiday season is on.
Right.
So we're asking you to be careful on the road, because there's so much young drivers out there. And if you drink,
don't drive.
And if you drive,
do not drink.
Please. I just lost somebody very dear to me, about 3 weeks ago. And a life is a terrible thing to waste. And not only that, but the life that you waste could be your own life.
That's right.
So I'm asking you, please, don't drink and drive. Enjoy the holiday, but avoid that. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Introduce our guest.
Today we have who with us?
Well, let me tell you a bit about our guest today.
Right.
She holds an undisputed record with over 30 starring credits. She's an actress, advocate, mother, humanitarian, and author. During the calendar years of 1988 to 1998 alone, our guest starred in 22 television movies, 3 miniseries, 1 feature film, and 1 weekly series. And she's been featured in commercials for Ford cars and trucks. I'm sure you have an idea already, right? And you may know our guest for today through her Emmy-winning role as the Bionic Woman.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here is the Bionic Woman herself, Lindsay Wagner. Hi. Welcome to the Junior Soul Show.
Welcome. It's such a great pleasure having you. Yes,
Happy
same
holidays to you, too.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's great having you here on the show. First of all, I wanted to know, how did you get started in the acting business?
Oh my goodness. You want the long version or the short version?
Short version. We have a few minutes. We're trying to hit at every little thing here.
Oh, that's always a hazard. Well, the bottom line was I couldn't dance. What does that mean?
Wow.
Ballet.
Yeah, well, I babysat for some people who kind of recognized that I was very locked up as a child emotionally, and that I kind of hid all my feelings. I was very funny and entertaining, but the more I heard inside, the more jokes I would tell. And they were very perceptive people, and they realized that I was a little girl who had a lot of family problems and didn't have any place to really let out her true feelings, and I hid it all. So they tried to get me to do something where I could express myself, a safe place to express myself, you know. And the woman was a ballerina and a dancing teacher, and the man who babysat for their children was an acting coach for working actors, and he would direct showcases and they would put them on. So they tried to get me into dance. Well, as it turns out, I'm dyslexic, and they didn't know in those days what that was. You know, I didn't know, nobody knew what that was. And today it's very common, it's easy to spot, children can be helped. But in our day, they just called it, oh, you're so smart, you're an attitude problem, you're not trying enough, and you try so hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a pretty painful way to grow up. But I couldn't sequence because of it. So I was very poised, and I was very... you know, I could get around and do all the moves, but I couldn't sequence, so I couldn't dance, and they couldn't figure it out. Nobody could figure it out. And eventually she got sick of trying to work with me, and I think she said, you take her. You have her express in your class, not mine. So he said, you want to come into my acting class? Now all this went on behind my back. I knew nothing about it, but I was 12.
Oh,
and he took me into his workshop, and I started, and it was just boom, you know, and I had this place where I could express all my pain, and I didn't have to put my name on it. So that was the first step in learning to express how important it is to tell your truth, no matter what it is.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think that's the bottom line of this whole impeachment process problem myself.
Exactly.
It has to do with truth.
Right.
You know, it
Right.
wasn't the initial offense.
How did you end up with the role as Bionic Woman?
Well, I had been acting for a couple of years. I had done a movie with Robert Wise and Peter Fonda starred in it called Two People, and then I did The Paper Chase. And I was just kind of leaving the studio at one point, and they said, oh, would you just do one more thing for us before you go? Because I had been under contract and kind of was not terribly happy with the situation anymore. And so they said, well, would you do this episode before you go? It was a 2-part episode on the $6 Million Man show. And where they, in the 70s, it was a classic formula. If the show's ratings were going down a little bit, you give the star a leading man or lady for a couple of episodes, and then you kill them off. You know, you have this love interest, and everybody goes, oh, they're love interest in that show, so they'll watch. And then, but then they kill them off. I mean, it's horrible, but that's what they did all the time to get rid of them, because they weren't creative enough to figure out what the heck to do with them. Well, in this case, the audience was absolutely furious when they did that. And now by this time I was gone from the studio, and all of a sudden the audience was screaming, you know. There were a couple of reasons, not just because they liked me and what I did, and that was a nice compliment from the audience, but they also, you know, in my generation, our generation, the Superman was kind of the quintessential, you know, human being, but he wasn't really a human being, but it was And then there was, you know, there was the Wonder Woman kind of
Wonder Woman,
figure.
Yeah.
Well, here,
Yeah.
in this day and age, for that generation in the 70s, all those children, they had the $6 Million Man. He was the new version type of kind of father figure, if you will. And they created the mother figure.
Yeah.
And then they killed her
Yeah.
right in front of all these kids' eyes. So just out of a lack of creative programming, that not only were there letters from, oh, please bring her back, but there were angry letters from parents and from children's hospitals in Boston, for example, and saying, you know, that was just a horrible thing. Did you ever think about what you did here? It isn't just a typical show. You're dealing with children and their hearts, and, you know, so, whoa, they had to bring her back to life. So it was actually resurrected on national television, and they brought me back to life through the miracles of science, and then I went on to go teach school. They turned down the bionics. Well, then they said, well, now that she's back to life, can we have some more of her? And so then they had to bring me back again, and so it just kind of snowballed, and really was a public demanded
Now, I know a
series.
lot of your movies were dealt with issues such as domestic violence and animal rights and a lot of those. How do you get involved with those movies? What made you decide to do those movies?
Yeah, it was almost not even, there was really no choice. It's kind of who I am. You know, I think everything you do in life should come from who you really are. I don't think you have one set of values for work and another set for your home.
Right.
And I don't, you know, so I take very seriously the impact of what I do at work, and what I happen to do is make films. And so it's very important to me that the way I affect you who's sitting home watching this, I want to leave you with some reverberation that's going to be a gift in some way. You know, and so consequently I end up going, oh, that's a nice story about how this person made it through. And I guess, you know, I like to also share my personal growth with people, because it's like going to church. I mean, I'm not saying that's on a pedestal or anything. I'm just saying that why do we commune? You know, we commune to share our spirit, and so to find stories about people where the audience can relate to them getting through something. That's why I do a lot of true stories. Most of the movies I do are true stories, because I want people to see that this is your potential.
Right.
You have this potential. It's not just a story that somebody made up in their mind, therefore you can say, well, yeah, but that's fine for him, but I couldn't do that. No, these are stories about everyday people who find that place in themselves. That is the, you know, where spirit comes through and shows you exactly what you could actually be, you know. And that's fun for me. More
That's
fun
fun
than
for you,
just,
yes.
it's not about making money. you
Right.
know?
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back to you, okay? In 30 seconds. How about that? Okay, so we'll be right back.
It is a test, not just of strength, but of the power of the mind. And if you complete the journey, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to the Junior Soul Show. Like we said before, we have Miss Lindsay Wagner with us today, and it's a great pleasure having you. Yes.
Now, you had said that you want people to leave with something when they watch one of your movies. What do you think that people remember about the Bionic Woman?
No, I mean, I'm sure that's different. There were so many different episodes, and I'm sure that every individual had one that they reverberated to with more than the other because of their particular circumstances in life. In general, I don't know. You gotta ask that to the audience. Right? I mean, I think they know that. I used to get little letters like, "I wish you were my mom," and stuff like that, which made me cry. But
I know you left good memories.
Yeah.
That's what
but
I
yeah,
good memories.
my goal with the show, and how, you know, why I ended up fighting a lot in the internally to get certain stories twisted this way or that way, or to, I can't do this story. It's, you know, was that I never wanted to win the circumstance simply because I was stronger. You know, and I insisted that they write the fact that she thinks her way out of things. She uses her mind, and her heart gets her into circumstances and out of circumstances. And she's bionic on top of it, so it does help.
Right.
But if she didn't have her mind and her heart, with her strength alone, she wouldn't have solved that problem. So that was what and I do think people felt that. I think they felt they got a little extra something out of that than just pure entertainment.
Let me ask you, have you ever been to Jamaica?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And did you enjoy it?
I did.
Yeah, did you listen to some reggae music while you were there?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, not as much as I thought I was going to, but
Okay.
because we kind of went to little quiet places and away from a lot of the good music, of course, was where all the other people were and the tourists. And it's not real easy for me to be among a bunch of tourists because then I become as interesting as the
Well, we promised.
reggae band, so then I have to sign autographs.
We promised we're going to take you to Jamaica
All right.
and let you have a good time. Just
Okay.
let you hear out.
I'm liking
Listen
that.
some reggae and dance some
Okay.
reggae, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Bionic style.
Yeah,
Bionic.
I took my little boy. That's my son actually took me there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my 10-year-old. Well, he was 12 now, but
Yeah.
2 years ago that was. I said, "Where you want to go? Any place? I'll take you anywhere. Just you and me."
Very
And Jamaica. He said that's where he wanted to go.
We should touch a topic with her with feeding the people because
Right.
you know I'm going to say something.
That's the
to you.
humanitarian side of
Humanitarian
Lindsay.
side of Lindsay.
Yeah.
I was on Crenshaw Boulevard this morning, and I was asking some people, "Do you know Lindsay Watkins? She's going to be on my show," and everybody was so excited. I mean, the black folks said, "Oh, she's a good woman," and I didn't know. I was doing some research myself, and so. Get into that with her for me and let us get the other side of her.
You did the research.
No.
No, but the thing is that a lot of people were saying that at the time when we had the civil unrest a few years ago, that, you know, you yourself, you went and you set up a table at the local supermarket, and, you know, as people walked into the supermarket, you asked them to contribute, not just food, but, 2 weeks later you were there collecting clothes, and you drove it down to the National
Council.
right, and for them to distribute them to the people that really need it. And from the feedback that you got, the people were very grateful.
Very appreciative about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. And,
Yeah.
and that's when I know that you're big. I know that you're large. In Jamaica we say large.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In America they say big.
Okay.
Okay? But when I walked out, while I walked out today and like doing my own little research on Crenshaw Boulevard and all those places, and they said, "Lindsay Wagner?" Of course, she's great.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
"Wow,
Yeah.
this lady have it going on."
It was an interesting
American,
time.
Right.
right? Great.
Yeah.
Interesting and
Yes,
difficult
yes.
time for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Actually, I sat in front of that store for 3 months.
3 months.
Every day for 3 months. And I didn't ask people, I badgered them.
What made you decide to do that?
Again, it wasn't a decision. It just, I woke up and I heard that the stores were gone. I mean, people are hungry all the time, and I help organizations that feed people, but now people even who had money
Right.
couldn't even go to the store.
Right.
So there were just hundreds and hundreds of people who were affected by not having the stores and couldn't get access to the food even if they could pay for it.
Yep.
And I know there were old people down there who had just their little checks and they'd walk to the store because they had no cars and, you know, and they didn't have a store to walk to, and it was just, I just was like, I thought, well, we got to get them some, it just wasn't even a thought.
Yeah.
It just like, bleh, you know, you get up and it just kind of belches
There's
out of
another
you.
thing to do.
And just got in the car and I thought, well, we got to get somebody, so I went down to the store, and the store was going, well, you can't really set up here. I mean, we don't really like it. What do you mean we're going to get set up here? And you know, it's like, and quite frankly, I was kind of baffled for the moment, and I said, well, gee, it's going to be awful in the news if, you know, I would say I was kicked out of a store because I wanted to get food for some, you know, some of our fellow citizens here in our city. And okay, just set up for a little while. And I said, okay, just a little while. 3 months later,
months
they're going,
later,
get
here you
out
are.
of here. You know, it was funny.
I knew we had something in common, though, because, you know, I have a thing that I've done in Jamaica every year. I haven't done it for the past 2 years, though. I feed kids in Jamaica and give them toys, and that's the same way. I was, you know, I saw the need, and I get involved, and I've done it.
Yeah.
And, but I know that we have something great in common. But from the first day we met,
Yeah.
I knew that. She's cancer. She's Jew. So what do you expect? She have the heart.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
The mother. See,
I'm not
it's a
into
mother's
the cancer.
instinct.
I'm not into the science.
It's a
so.
mother's instinct. It's instinct. It's not mental. you know.
Yeah. Well, I know in the entertainment industry, you're known as one of the most knowledgeable experts in the area of holistic health. How did you get started in that?
When I was a kid, I had ulcers, and started when I was about 14, and then it got really bad by the time I was 20. And I had this very bad attack, and they took me to the emergency, and they were going to operate at UCLA. And my boyfriend at the time, his mother was the personal secretary for a man by the name of Dr. William Hornaday. It was the Science of Mind Church down on, well, he's no longer in this dimension anymore, but the Science of Mind Church, which is, it's really just looking at one's spirituality with understanding man to be body, mind, and spirit, looking at man in that way. Now, that's what holistic health is also. It's understanding that we are. So whether you're coming to approach a spiritual problem, or if you're coming to approach a mental or emotional problem, or if you're coming to approach a physical problem, you can't just look at the mental, or just the spiritual, or just the, you know, the physical. You have to understand that they all interact and that they all need to be addressed. And so that was, they came to me because of Carol Hatch, this lady who I was so close to, and she said, you know, maybe Dr. Hornaday could help you, and if you don't want to have this surgery. And so they took me, put me in a private hospital for a couple of days just to subside my acute situation. And then he started teaching me about using prayer and meditation, and then a medical doctor who was a friend of his put me on a very specific, very rigid fast for 6 weeks, so that my digestive system could have a real rest and just
like
liquids.
What kind of food were you eating?
I was drinking, actually at that time I was drinking non-fat milk, not for nothing but that for 6 weeks.
Nothing but non-fat milk for 6 weeks. That's all. Breakfast,
Yeah, and I
lunch,
don't want anybody to go out and try that on their own. This was a very specific thing, and it was regulated and watched, you know, by a doctor. So please don't go out and do that if you have ulcers, because there's a lot that went into it. But that was just the physical approach to what we were doing, and then I was doing working on myself mentally, where he was having me write an autobiography about myself, and then everything that I could remember every time, and write it in chronological order, and then every time I could remember ever being sick, and then got my mother's help from that, and then chronologically realigned them and looked at them together, and he showed me my stress pattern. I kept saying, I don't understand how you can tell me that this is, but today we know that ulcers are from stress, but then they didn't. And I said, how can you tell me this is from stress? Because when I'm upset, when there's something really horrible going on, it never happens then. It always happens when things are quiet. And he said, well, let's see. Then he had me do this thing. And I saw that I'm the type of person who's very take charge. You want me around during a crisis, you know, because I have this automatic overdrive, and I just go and take care of the problem. Then I break down. So it still is about the stress. It's just that my particular personality, whereas somebody else would break down in the middle of the crisis, I don't. I break down later because I kind of had this ability to put my emotions away. But because when the crisis was over, and I was never really taught to acknowledge and honor my own pain, my own fear, I just ignored it. So that's part of what made me good at being around in the crisis. But then afterwards, I didn't say, okay, now it's time to address what I went through. I figured the crisis is over. This is silly. You shouldn't have those emotions. It's not silly. Everything we feel is important. Everything that goes through us means something to our personal self. So that was my beginning of understanding body, mind, and spirit. And when I healed that all by myself without the surgery, and through meditation and visualization of my body healing, and, you know, and letting spirit come in and help me heal, and I came out of that like that. I went, there's a lot they're not teaching us in this world, and I want to know a lot more about it, and it just kind of became my passion.
Are those
and so I read.
Go ahead, not to cut you off.
I mean, I just continued to learn more about all the different types of things that weren't taught in the so-called mainstream. You know?
Now, are those the same concepts that you have in your book? I know you have a book on acupressure. So
acupressure, it's taking. And today, acupuncture is fairly well accepted. Acupressure is just a form of the same thing being done without the needles. And so
you could handle that.
and it's something that you can do to yourself or to each other. You know, you learn simple things to do.
So like what? If I wanted to look younger for, say, 20 years from now, is there like a special point?
There are several points that you would push. But you see, that's why it's in the book we explain that you there are these points that are on your face. They aren't just about your face. On the bottom of your foot, in your ears, you have nerve endings and electrical connections that pertain to the organs of your body and to your different systems of your body. So when you work these points, you're not only ending up looking younger and reversing the wrinkling process because you're touching your face, but because you're enhancing the function of all your organs.
I'll start now.
By manipulating those points in your body. And so consequently you have the response on the external. The external only kind of is reflecting kind of what's going on in the internal.
I know time going out on us. We only have approximately 2 minutes left. But do you have any children?
I do. I have two
you
magnificent
did mention
children.
boys, yeah. But you have two boys?
I have two boys,
great.
16 and 12.
Oh, lovely.
And I was really gifted with two very special spirits
Great,
that I have the opportunity to guide up to a certain age, and then I'll cry when they go.
I know you're very spiritual too, because at times when you're in town, you know, we always meet up at church.
Yes, the first day I meet.
First day I meet church. And I want to tell you so much how grateful I am for you sitting with us and giving us this interview today, because I know you're only in town for 1 week, and you'll be running again, and I know you have a very tight schedule.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate it a great deal.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad it worked out. I'm very glad.
Yes, I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
asking
it.
me.
Yes,
No.
I really appreciate it.
Junior mentioned that you were interested in learning how to cook rice and peas.
Yeah,
That's
I had a disastrous
For all you
attempt.
people out there, I am Jamaican, by the way. You know, I come from yard, all right?
There's a lot of people always saying, oh, your co-host, she sounds so good, but she's not Jamaican.
I am
Of course.
Jamaican.
She's
yes.
110% out of 100 Jamaican.
Oh, jeez. But anyway, this is a Caribbean Festival of Foods by one of our organizations, Jamaican Awareness Association. So we just want to present it with you. And rice and peas is right there in the very center. Rice and peas right there.
And there's another. Gary, could you bring that flowers for us,
And this
please?
is also for you. Just a little thank you gift. Thank you so very much for coming, being a guest on our show.
And we have some flowers. This gentleman always I want to meet you. So
This is Gary.
This is Gary.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Just wave to the